Hi, Chumi. Welcome to another episode of Meet Me in My Corner. I'm Dr. K, and I'm your host. So, I want you to take some time and I want you to think about the one thing you feel that if you had in your life or if you achieved it, it would make everything better and would make you feel very comfortable and secure about where you are. So, I posed this question to myself 2 weeks ago when I was really struggling with feeling unaccomplished. And I don't know if it's because it's about to be the middle of the year and I'm just asking myself, like, girl, what have you done? You had all these goals that you have set, and most of them you haven't really even achieved, or you're not even close to achieving. And I realized that thing for me is mastering the art of discipline. So before I go far, I just want to read to you a quote by Jim Rohn, which will make sense in this conversation. So he states, discipline is a bridge between goals and accomplishments. And I completely agree with this because I know I'm an ambitious person and I do like to set goals. I'm a visionary. That's who I am, But the issue with being a visionary and not being someone who's disciplined enough to execute is that if you don't master that, if you're not principled in that way, you will struggle to see a lot of your things come to life or to be sustained. In actual fact, this podcast has been a huge fight with myself because I've become so accustomed to not being disciplined. And I was just really sad when I made this realization 2 weeks ago that, damn, you're really not as disciplined as you know yourself to be. And why is that? So another quote I also want to read is that true freedom is impossible without a mind made free by discipline. And as you can hear, I'm quite imprisoned by the thoughts of, not feeling like I'm achieving much. And instead, I don't feel motivated, to do more. In actual fact, I feel quite demotivated because I am so unhappy with myself. And I'm just like, why can't you just get it right? I've shared about this podcast before. It's going to sound very redundant. Like, okay, are you going to speak about this all the time? So the Thierry Henry episode on Diary of a CEO really stood out to me because he had a lot of nuggets that I felt I could apply in my life or that I could look back on and, think about. So the one thing he shared is that you need to fall in love with pain. And I'm going to paraphrase what he said, but basically he was just talking about like you can't progress in life if you don't love pain. You can't achieve big things if you don't love pain. And I definitely took it from him because athletes are a true example of what discipline can do for you. You have to be a very disciplined person for you to embark on any type of journey as an athlete. The amount of hours that they have to put in and the amount of pain that it takes for them to progress and to see themselves becoming stronger, bigger, and better. And there was also another quote that I read. It's just that I can't find it right now, which spoke about like how, as much as you want to love the pleasures of life, you also need to love the pain of discipline. So my lack of discipline is actually going to show up in this episode because I didn't stick to my schedule of recording this conversation on Sunday, and now I'm recording it just before I have to actually upload. So I'm recording this on Tuesday again. It's like last week. My child is very agitated today, so you will definitely hear her. We have no idea what's going on. She's definitely not sick. She did really well at school today, but for some odd reason, she's just not having it tonight. But anyway, so because I can't just go down on a path where I'm just, cutting myself down to size, I had to start to look at events to give myself some sort of idea of where I'm sitting and what's happening. So I decided to go back into my past and look at events where I have shown that I have the capability to be disciplined and reap the rewards of that. So the first thing I wrote down was when I was 9 years old. And I don't forget this one because it's sometimes that memory that I look to when I'm really struggling with something and it requires a lot of persistence from me. So from the age of 4, I think, or maybe it could have been even earlier, but I think I can only remember from the age of 4, I was sucking my thumb, right? And I think when I started to be really conscious about it was when I was 7, and it was like a thing at school, and it was also a thing with my parents, like you need to stop, and even with family members, it was obviously a self-soothing mechanism for myself. But what they kept warning me about is that your teeth are going to be so messed up and you're really going to struggle. But also, it just didn't look great, right? And sometimes I'd find myself even sucking my thumb while talking. Oh, I can't imagine how that looked. So this was a habit that I felt like I didn't have control over. And even now, at the age of 30, I still see myself as that 9-year-old. So the day I decided to actually kick this habit to a curb was very random. And I see myself on this blue carpet. And if you remember school back then, like we used to sit on like carpets that were like, how can I explain that kind of carpet? But it was very coarse and very rough. Okay, I remember I can see myself sitting on this carpet, and I'm sitting against a shelf, a very low shelf though, and it's against a wall. And I'm playing with sandbags, and then I decide in that moment that I am going to stop sucking my thumb. I don't know what elicited that thought or why I felt then and there was going to be the last time that I actually sucked my thumb. But whatever it was, a switch definitely flicked, and I've never sucked my thumb ever since then. And for me, it was so great that something I felt so overwhelmed by in terms of like, feeling out of control and feeling like it was taking away all my willpower was something that I could just quickly decide and change. And obviously, it required a lot of discipline for me to stay committed to my decision to stay away from sucking my thumb. And then we move on to when I did my medical degree. So I didn't go into medicine in a conventional way. I didn't have all the distinctions in matric and then I found myself in medicine. No. In actual fact, I wasn't even interested in pursuing a career in medicine at that point. I had thought about it before. I mean, I really wanted to be a neurosurgeon once upon a time, but towards the end of my high school career, I'd actually thought I was going to be in the dramatic arts. I was going to be in theater. I was going to be writing plays and yada, 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 yada. And the story goes on and on. So when I eventually found myself in medicine, there was a little bit of that imposter syndrome. And for some odd reason, even though I was there, I always felt like the dream was very far-fetched. And I felt like me becoming a doctor was not something that I could really attain. And I was studying it. It's not as if anybody could take my place. So it required a lot of discipline for me to, stay steadfast in terms of like studying and staying focused at school. And studying medicine for me was not easy. It took a lot. It was a huge, huge toll on me. And it didn't help that I had all these other things that I was doing on the side, like, being a makeup artist. And my makeup career really blew off when I was in my final year, the year that mattered the most. I mean, I remember there was a weekend where I had to travel to Venda because I'd accepted a booking there to do a wedding. I'd accepted this booking a year prior. So I couldn't get out of it. And I mean, it was someone's wedding and I hadn't had any sights of how my exams were going to look, but I accepted this booking. And now the Monday following that weekend, I was going to write my final exam in obstetrics and gynae. So it took a lot of discipline for me to prepare for that exam, prior to me going to the wedding, and also make sure that once I come from the wedding, no matter how tired I am, I actually have to put in the work and to ensure that I actually get by. In actual fact, everything that I did in that year required me to really, use all my willpower and put in a lot of time and effort to ensure that I don't, lose my degree because I wanted to do makeup during that time. So I had to make both things work at once, which, as I said before, required a lot of discipline. So you're going to hear this word over and over again. But yeah, so for me, it was very tough, but I was so glad I did it. And the accomplishment of reaching that goal was just so amazing. I still think back to the day when I saw that, I passed and I'm getting this degree. It was like the best day ever, giving my mom that call, preparing for it. I mean, I even went for like a fairy tale look. I looked like I was getting married, I won't lie, but it just felt so amazing. I'm still sad that we never got a graduation, because I still think that was one of my biggest accomplishments, especially, dealing with the amount of anxiety you'll deal with as a medical student. I mean, you go through so much scrutiny and it's not easy, but it does force you to understand the importance of discipline. So that is also something I do look back on to remind myself that you're very capable. And then the last thing I noted here is kicking a bad habit of dating toxicity. So I've spoken at length about this on the Get Your Quality Partner episode, which is, surprisingly enough to me, my most popular episode and the most downloaded episode. So thank you for that. But, people are creatures of habits, right? A lot of the things that we do are actually patterns. Even if it's different people, different spaces, different environments, it's still somewhat of a pattern until you identify that you are, in this pattern, and then you try to make decisions. So you make that commitment to change that pattern. And that's what was required of me at that time. And, I don't really speak so much in depth about this one toxic relationship or situationship that I found myself in which, other things came with it. And the day I feel very secure and okay with myself to share this, I will share more about it. But a lot came with that situation that I had to undo, and it required a lot of discipline. And because, I was so addicted to that cycle of toxicity. I was addicted to the highs and how every time we would have a low, we can come back from it, that I just kept going back. Even though I knew for certain I was going back to a loveless relationship, or a relationship that really tore me down as a person. So the day I actually decided that this was going to be the last time was actually the day that was the last time. And yes, it could have been instances I could have fallen back, but I am so grateful. Honey, I am so grateful. I have never looked back. And I'm so grateful that I decided to undo a pattern that I'd kept for a very long time, a pattern that made me feel comfortable for a very long time. There's also some sort of comfort in dysfunction, because it becomes something that you're accustomed to. So getting out of that can sometimes feel strange and foreign, and it's not really, it might not seem as appealing, but I'm so glad that I told myself that whatever it is, I need to just be on the other side. So why is it now important for me to be looking at discipline and how it should start playing a part in my life? So since university and, all these things that I've shared, I've realized that it's been 5 years, if not more, of me not accomplishing the things that I really wanted to accomplish for quite some time. And I'll share some of it here with you because I've been lacking discipline. I mean, I've done some stuff, but I've realized that there hasn't been a very long sustainability to a lot of my goals or to a lot of my dreams or to a lot of my ideas because that discipline, that painful discipline was not there. But before I go into exactly how I feel discipline should be coming back into my life, I want to actually share with you what the AdventistHealthcare.com share about the 5 pillars of discipline. Well, self-discipline, that is. Okay, so the first pillar that they describe is acceptance, which is the most basic challenge that people face. They fail to accurately perceive and accept their current situation. It is important to identify an area where your discipline is weakest. Assess where you stand right now. Acknowledge and accept your starting point and design a program for yourself to improve in this area. So yes, I truly understand why acceptance would play a big part, and I do see it even in myself right now in the areas that I feel that I require a lot of self-discipline, and self-discipline will be the only thing that will change my habits. Even looking back at the things that I was able to overcome and I was able to get onto the side of, the only reason why it took long or took the amount of time that it took is because the acceptance took quite some time. Actually being honest with myself and being quite self-aware in those situations or in those moments to say that this thing is not conducive for you, it's not doing much for you. And then the next pillar that they speak of is willpower, which is a concentration of force. You choose your objective, you create a plan of attack, and then execute the plan. Your willpower will also be at its lowest when you feel stressed. So willpower, yes, completely agree. And it's after acceptance that you will then be able to then create the plan, right? And creating the plan is also some of the hardest things to do because it forces you to look at everything quite objectively and decide what is possible for you, where do you need help. And with someone like me who doesn't have, it in her like naturally to ask for help, I do feel that this is why I've struggled with having that discipline in certain areas and executing, my plans of attack. And then the next part is hard work. This is what many people try to avoid by doing what is easiest. Drag me. But a strong challenge is commonly connected with strong results. And this is true because I know that the reason why I'm sitting where I'm sitting now, where I'm really, really not happy with myself, I'm kind of disappointed in myself, is because I keep looking for the easiest way out and I always make excuses. And excuses will always make you feel comfortable up until a certain point, right? But then there has to come a point where you need to be honest with yourself and see that you're not getting any results from just sitting here and making excuses or from going the easiest way out. In actual fact, you're probably digging yourself in a deeper hole. And then the fourth pillar is industry, which is about developing the capacity to put in the time and the effort. And the last pillar is persistence, which allows you to keep taking action even when you don't feel motivated to do so. And therefore, you keep accumulating results. Persistence will ultimately provide its own motivation. And it's true, when you see yourself actually achieve something, after you have a workout, and it takes a lot, right? It takes a lot for you to accept that, okay, I need to do this. And then you have to put in the willpower of actually getting onto maybe the track or getting into the gym or, I don't know, like switching on the YouTube and choosing a workout, right? And then you put in the hard work. Like you actually decide, okay, I'm going to put in the hard work. And then you also look at the industry of like putting in the time and the effort. And once you persist through the pain and whatever the workout wants from you, because, and this is coming from someone who hates workouts. But once you push through it and you actually accomplish it, even though it feels like a small feat, it kind of encourages you, not even kind of, it definitely does encourage you to keep going. Like I'll find myself like after like a very hard workout, I feel like, oh, now I can keep going. I don't know, I feel very energized, which is obviously something that you do expect from a workout. Physiologically, it should do that for you. But it's a beautiful way to actually also look at life and look at the things that you start to achieve, even if it's small things, small achievements. So telling yourself, okay, I'm going to be disciplined in this moment. Yes, this goal is a very small goal, but I know once I persist through and I accomplish it, it will motivate me to carry on and to do other things. Okay, so let's go into where I've been feeling like discipline is lacking in my life. So the first thing I need to speak on is my health and my body. Okay. So my body is very foreign to me, even though I've lived in it for 5 years now, and I actually haven't made big changes to improve my situation. And my body is the way it is because of decisions that I have made. It's not because I have any health issues, or it's not because I had a baby. I mean, sometimes I do use that excuse to to help me avoid a deeper conversation and to help me be aware and to accept that I do make poor lifestyle choices, and that's why I look the way I look. And there's nothing wrong with the way I look. It's just that for me, it's very foreign. I grew up for a very long time being, slim, or actually I was quite skinny at first, which I didn't really like. And then I did grow into a body that I enjoyed. It's just that I was somehow fooled into thinking that it wasn't the best body. But looking back now, there was a time I did really enjoy my body. I enjoyed, how I looked. I enjoyed how it carried me. And I think that's the biggest thing. It actually goes deeper than just how I look, how it carried me. Because right now I'm really struggling with how my body carries me. I can see that I'm like, slumping quite a lot. My posture is really terrible, but that has to do with also more things than just my actual weight. But also I feel quite heavy and I don't feel like the person that I used to be. So feeling very foreign in my body has also, created some sort of an identity issue. And I remember that at some point it was so bad that I was so not in love with myself and I felt so foreign to myself that I couldn't even, find clothes that could make me feel dressed well, and I would just feel like really, really terrible. I mean, I would have a vision in my head, and that's when I realized that I'm actually not aware of how I look. And I'd look at my pictures and see that, oh, okay, it's like someone put it on TikTok. It's like a reverse body dysmorphia. Like I would think I am smaller because I'm used to being smaller, even though this has been for 5 years, but I was so used to being smaller and I'm not like aware and I'm not accepting of my situation that when I actually see the evidence that I completely am in denial, like, no, it must be the phone or whatever, but it even made me difficult. It made it difficult for me to even to relate to other people to such a point where I didn't really want to ever go out much. And I'd only go out, just to tick that box, right? But I really always felt uncomfortable. Truly, truly did. I only got better at loving myself and, pouring positivity in myself because I do also understand that there's a soul inside of me, and that's really very important. And, the shell doesn't have to speak for who I am. However, I do still need to work on it. But I only started becoming more comfortable with my body really, I think, last year sometime, and I started playing around in the closet. And if you follow me on Instagram, especially my personal page, Dr. K _lekalakala, you would know that I now started doing things like OOTDs, OOTDs outfit of the day. And that's because I've just realized that if I'm not going to do anything about it now, I'm not going to not enjoy my life because I don't feel comfortable or I feel quite foreign. But I still have those moments. I still have those moments where I sit in the car and like I really want to cry after going shopping and I couldn't find anything. And I visualized an outfit and it just looks very different on me. And it's not how I envisioned it to be. That's still very difficult. So a big part of dealing with my body is also accepting the fact that because of the lifestyle decisions that I've made, that I've actually, yeah. So I now have a condition. It's non-alcoholic fatty liver disease. And it's only because I gained weight in a very short space of time and because of the kind of foods that I eat. It came up in my pregnancy, but after we spoke about it, we realized that it possibly was before, because when we started speaking about my habits, my lifestyle, and I also went to a GIT doctor and he was just like, if you lost weight, that fatty liver would look much better. And I want to share something quite scary, but obviously it hasn't scared me enough because I haven't changed my habits. But after I gave birth, I did go to my physician and he ordered me to go for another sonum to look at the fattiness of my liver, and it was really, really bad. Like on the sonar, it just looked white, right? And there was an area which wasn't white, and they kept saying to me that you need to lose weight so we can determine what's going on. So it could just be that there's no fat there, or it could be a lesion, right? God forbid it is a lesion. Really, God forbid. Like, I'm praying that it isn't. And you'd think like that kind of thing would wake me up, but for some odd reason, and I just don't know what it is. Like, to a point where I started like thinking maybe I'm bewitched. Like, honey, why are you not snapping out of this? Like, there's so many things in front of you that are making it very clear that you need to have better habits so that you can protect your life, and you have this child that you need to live for. They need a mother. But also another thing is I want to have another child. So at some point I do need to deal with it. It got so bad that the other day I met with my trainer and we were doing a workout for my work. And I was struggling. Oh, guys, I was struggling. And she looked at me and she said, do you want to have another child? And I was like, yeah, I do. And she's like, then honey, you need to get healthier. Shoo, that did something else to me. So let's also go into working out. Physical activity is not something that is my strong point. I've hated physical activity ever since I think I was born. I remember when we used to do PE, I hated those kilometer runs that we had to do or whatever, I always felt like I wanted to die. I couldn't get myself to love it. Like, even when I look at people who love running, I am so jealous. If you love running, I am jealous of you. I'm probably even going to avoid you because of my jealousy. Like, my partner is one of those people. He loves to get up and just run, it's his thing. He loves being physically active. To such a degree that I also sometimes feel kind of bad that he's with someone like me, because I know in his dream of all dreams, he'd love it to still be me. I know he still loves me, but he wishes that we could have a more active lifestyle. I could be out there with him, we could be doing more together in the wilderness. I don't know why in the wilderness though. My man is one of those people who wants to bungee jump and skydive. Oh no, I'm not doing that. But I know he really loves to be active, and to have a partner with him that maybe is cycling with him, whatever, running with him would be great. But even with that, even with the amount of love that I have for him, it is not enough for me to convince myself. And this week especially, I had to really talk to myself and say that you're not willing to accept. You're not willing to accept your situation. But yeah, I still don't have the answers. Remember, this is a working phase, but I just wanted to also share that. And another thing is my eating. Guys, my eating. Okay, my eating is bad. I deleted Uber Eats and I still order Uber Eats, but through my Uber. That's how bad I am. And I am that girl that loves fatty biltong. Like, give me fatty biltong all the way. In actual fact, I just eat the meat just so that I don't look like an animal. But if I actually truly had it my way, I would really only eat the fat. And I'm not saying if you only eat the fat, you're an animal. I'm just speaking about myself. This is just to me, okay? Please don't project this onto yourself. But my eating is really bad, and my partner's eating is also really bad. I was actually telling him the other day, like, we really like snacking, and sometimes we'd snack like unnecessarily. Like, it comes off as gluttonous. Like, why are we eating a whole packet of chips? Why are we eating a slab of chocolate? Why are we eating a slab of chocolate? It's gonna give me a pimple the next day, and it's really not gonna make me feel good. The only thing that really kind of saves me, and I think actually my body would actually be, you know, be heavier in weight, and I'd have more conditions or more health issues, is if I had a sweet tooth. The thing is, I do have a limit to the sweetness that I can take, so that's what kind of saves me. But damn, your girl. So I actually once tried to do a calorie deficit, and I started it this year, and I was good for a month. And then I went on holiday, and that was done. I was like, I'm hungry. What? And I come up with excuses. You know what I said before? That the hard work, it's the most challenging one, because people always want to use the easy way out. I'm that person. I always come up with excuses. And I'll tell myself, oh, but you didn't eat. And another thing is, I have a poor eating habit of not eating well during the day, and then my sugar really crashes, right? My glucose levels crash, and then I obviously want to have a big meal, because your body is really hungry, and that big meal is never healthy. Yeah, so I also want to go back to that. But I do actually want to share that today I actually did work out. I did wake up, and I did make the decision to even do the hard workout. So the one that I'd normally skip over, I actually did it. And it really was a good boost to my day. But I did also feel like I was dying. I just feel, if you are listening to this and you can pray over me to work out, please do, because I really need it. I genuinely need it. And then the last part in this whole thing about body and health is alcohol. Guys, alcohol. Let's start being real about alcohol. Okay, so one thing we definitely know is that there's no nutritional value to alcohol. It doesn't do anything for you, right? There's just these so-called social benefits that we've all been conditioned to believe in. We think that to have a good time, to celebrate, to enjoy conversations, we need to always have alcohol. And like, alcohol has been so romanticized. Like, the culture of alcohol is just so, like, it's glamorized. It's just all about, like, I don't know, it's just all about like better experiences if alcohol is involved. And oh my God, I've been trying my hardest to, try to uncondition myself from thinking that way, because I know that for me specifically, alcohol can only do me harm. Like, there's no benefit it can give me, right? I mean, it got to a point where I was even like buying fancy glasses for wine, which just made the habit a little bit worse. And yes, maybe I don't need professional help. Okay, I don't. Nobody has ever called out my drinking. I don't get drunk to a point where I've blacked out. In actual fact, that is like one of my things. Like, I always tell people, I've never blacked out from alcohol. I don't drink to that degree where I would, really embarrass myself or whatever. But I do drink a lot more alcohol than what is necessary. And what I mean by that is that there was a time, because last week I actually put myself on pause, where I was drinking wine or drinking a glass of something, but normally it was wine, once every day, like every single day, every day. And alcohol doesn't make you feel good. Like, it doesn't actually make you feel good. Like, after the whatever benefit that you've received from it, that literally, short-lived benefit, then you have to deal with the repercussions of your body trying to process this thing that it doesn't want in it, this poison in it. Oh, guys, and I speak like this, but I'm telling you, I'm still in the clutches of alcohol, but I had to start to be honest myself. So when I started writing down the episodes I was going to put together for the podcast, one of it was to talk about alcohol. So I started to do research on it. Well, not much research, but I wanted to, look at like what really pushes people towards alcohol. So there's actually a questionnaire out there about what motivates people to drink. And apparently, if you do that, mostly women, when they answer those questionnaires and they really see what benefits they're looking for from alcohol, it makes them more aware and it makes them more likely to stop drinking. I tried to get the questionnaire. It was just the weirdest thing. It just didn't. And I promise you, I'm not making an excuse. I promise you, I'm not making an excuse. It just wasn't working on my computer properly. But now that I have Word, maybe I can go back to it. So I've been meaning to go back to that questionnaire to do it, because I know one of the things that I use alcohol for is to cope. And I don't know how I got into this habit of thinking that if I have a stressful moment that I need to take the edge off with alcohol. And it's because of what we see on TV, and it's because of what we've been socialized to believe, right? But in actual fact, I should have the tools within me, because if there's no alcohol and I'm stressed, does that mean I'm going to die from the stress? No, it can't be that, right? And then another thing is like, I would think like self-care day would be me also having a glass of wine in a bath. How is that possible? You putting poison in your body and you're calling it self-care? I'm like dragging myself here, by the way. So alcohol has been one of those things that I've said to myself by the end of this year, but I don't know how, but I need to be done. I need to be done. It's going to make my skin look better. I'm going to feel less heavier. My liver will have a chance. And I know I will not eat as much as I do, because also another thing is with alcohol is every time I drink, I feel like I want to eat more, which is just not helping the situation, right? And I am with someone that kicked that habit to the curb. My man does not drink at all. And he used to be like a party person. He used to be someone that drank. And he one day made a decision and he stuck to it. I am so moved by that man. The level of discipline in that man, I wish it was contagious. I wish it was actually sexually transmitted so that I could get it. Because I've loved it. And he's just like, even on the way he looks, I won't lie to you. Yes, fine. I am a person, my man, but my man actually looks better. Ever since he left alcohol, and it's not that he looked bad. It's just that like all of a sudden he has like an even more of a glow, and he just always is like, he's just always lively. And yeah, there's a word I want to use. He looks like he has a lot of vitality to him. Yeah. Which has been really awesome to see and witness. And I really want it for myself. But also just speaking on that, what also made me realize or conscious of my drinking is when I started becoming a little bit defensive about it. So I was kind of like embarrassed that I'm having a drink. And my man has never judged me. He's never said to me, oh, wow, you're drinking again? Or, oh, wow, don't you want to slow down? Or maybe have that as your last drink, don't add more to it. He's never done anything like that. But there was a day I was pouring myself a drink. It was a weeknight, I won't lie. And he was looking in my direction, but he actually wasn't looking at me. And I was just like, what are you looking at? And I was like, damn, girl, why are you so defensive? He was like, what's up with you? I'm just thinking. And I'm like, are you judging me? He's like, no, I'm not. Like, do you, babe? Like, do you? It's just that the day you want to stop, just let me know, But yeah, I do want to. Alcohol. And actually, there was a time I was kind of flagged. And it's funny because I was flagged when I was on somewhat of a sabbatical, so I was sober for like a month, and I had answered a questionnaire incorrectly, or I don't know what I said in the questionnaire. So I was I was moving a policy over to another broker or whatever, and they obviously had to do all their tests or whatever, their medical exam. And because of the fatty liver disease, they also had to come do my blood. And I don't know how I answered that nurse. And I was flagged as like a possible alcoholic. It was just such a sobering moment. It was very hilarious at the time, though, I won't lie. I did get out of it because I'm not an alcoholic, right? I don't need professional help. But I do need to be honest with myself and just start saying that in my situation, my context, alcohol actually doesn't make sense. Okay, So then the next thing I have realized that discipline is definitely lacking is my finances. Um, I've spoken at length about this on TikTok. For some odd reason, I feel more comfortable talking about this on TikTok. Um, but it's become even more evident, especially this year, where it really feels like money is very tight. I was having a conversation with a friend of mine, and she was just saying, like, this year has been her worst financial year, and it's only like, what, 5 months in? And it's because for some odd reason, it feels like the money that used to sustain her very well last year now all of a sudden cannot sustain her this year. And I realized the same thing. Like, damn, my expenses feel very hefty. And like, it's not like my salary has increased. So that's what we were actually talking about. Like, nothing has changed in terms of like, our salary is increasing, but how somehow expenses are just way more. And it's becoming suffocating. But to add fuel to that fire, I have very poor spending habits, which have really been the bane of my existence. Like when I look at myself, I'm just like, girl, again. And sometimes it feels like I can't even help myself. Like I'll just spend just because the money is there. And it's just like, but this is not sustainable. And I know there will come a time where I won't be so fortunate, where I have that extra income, right? And it's actually quite irresponsible to believe that that extra income will always save me. And it's good. It's getting to that point where I'm going to be in such a situation where I feel like I need to be saved. And I don't want to be saved. And when I look at my partner is very, very, very disciplined with money. Very, very disciplined to a point where sometimes it is obviously a touchy subject, right? And they do say that finances can be the biggest hurdle for couples to go through. And we're not married yet, but we're about to be married. And planning the wedding has really exposed me even more and has also made me realize that if I want the marriage, I need to be very aware of how I behave with money. Because I know my partner would not want to be attached to any of the financial decisions that I'm making now. And he has brought it up like, babe, even if it's your own money, right? I'll never tell you what to do with your money, but I just want you to save for yourself. I want you to understand that you don't need to pay for each and everything. You don't need to extend yourself so much. And another thing is that I'm an emotive spender. I mean, we had my child's birthday party a week ago. It was supposed to be a lunch. Genuinely, it was supposed to be a lunch. It became a whole shindig, like a whole party. I spent so much money, right? And I kept telling myself, oh, but it's for my baby. But those kind of things are not sustainable. When your expenses are like up to the roof, when your credit card is maxed out, that is not sustainable, babe. And you need to fix things, And when it became really real to me is when I started struggling with post-shopping depression. But I would still see myself going into the store and buying things. I will always come up with a situation to buy something. And I know where I get it from. By the way, I'm not confused about where this comes from. I grew up in a home where, I think because my parents spent the way they spent because of their traumas, right? Their financial traumas. I can understand like looking at from their perspective or their point of view, they lacked quite a lot, and now finally they were able to do more than just the bare minimum, and they really went all out. And I think it was just to prove something to themselves or to heal certain things in themselves, but that habit really got passed on to me. I'm not going to speak for anybody else, but it really, really got passed on to me, and I've struggled with my finances greatly because of that. Like nobody has ever really taught me how to take care of money. Nobody. I've seen what bad expenditure can do, and I am traumatized by that, but nobody has ever taught me how to avoid certain things like that, And now that I'm a real adult, like now that I'm making big decisions and I'm acquiring big debts like my house and my car, whatever, and I have all these policies and I'm trying to stretch my rand and it's really not stretching as much, I'm now starting to realize that damn, this thing is something that needs to be taught, but it also requires a lot of discipline. So even though somebody would have to come in, or even if I had to invite someone to come in to assist me to think better, to, save more, or to find ways to plan my financial life in a better way, it would still require discipline. I mean, I think it was the beginning of this month or just last month, I decided to actually look at my budget. Did I stick to it? No, I didn't. Guys, I didn't. And I have to admit that. I didn't. I didn't at all. In actual fact, I did really poorly for someone who was very aware of her situation and where she's at. If I do want to see myself having, a bigger home than what I have now, if I want to see myself driving a different car, it doesn't need to be like, a fancy car. I'm actually over that type of stuff. That's not something that interests me anymore. But I want a more dependable car. I want like a Volvo. I really want a Volvo. And if I want a Volvo, there's a type of mentality that I need to have that I can get there, And I also want to aspire to, buy such a car cash. Those are the kind of things that I'm thinking of. Like, there was one thing that I said to my mom when we got our house, and I truly believed it. And I was like, I think within a few years, I'll be able to pay off the house. And now I'm thinking about it, I'm like, but who are you to say that when you are not doing the things that are necessary for you to be put in that position to do that? Like, and it could have been possible. It could have been possible for me to, decrease our bond repayments with all the extra money I'm getting. But because I'm such a poor spender, I'm not putting myself in that position to do so. Sure, I'm really airing out my dirty laundry here. But I know a lot of us struggle with these kind of things. And, if we keep cowering away, and if we keep, trying to always just look perfect and not have these conversations, I'm not saying there are not people out there who have things, on lock, but I'm just saying that it is important for us to be vulnerable in these ways because, we're just not alone. And for some odd reason, I just feel much better when I realize that I'm just not alone, because then people are just willing to come together and really help each other, and we can create that kind of community. And then the last thing is my parenting, which is actually the most important thing. So I did put it as number one, and I did my list backwards. But yeah, I wanted to just share about those things first. But in terms of my parenting, so the first time I realized that, discipline is really lacking here, is when we were struggling to put our daughter to sleep. And no matter how much money and time I threw into it, because I didn't have that discipline, it just was not working out. And you see, the thing is with children, for them to feel safe, for them to feel secure, they need habits, they need consistency, they need a routine. That's definite. And I preach that everywhere. I might sound like a scam right now. And in certain areas of her life, we have maintained that, and it's done so well, and we have seen the benefits of that. But with sleep, and it was because we did not regard our own sleep highly. If we cared for our own sleep, we definitely would have cared for hers. And you see, something that was also exposed to me through this journey is that no matter how much of a good intention you have, if it's not backed by discipline, if it's not backed by action, then it means nothing. And no matter how much we love her, we couldn't outdo our poor habits by just loving her. We actually have to put in the work, and we had to go through the pain of being disciplined and putting her to sleep. It does mean that someone has to, log off their phone or stay away from the TV and, sit with the child in the bedroom. And sometimes we just didn't want to do that. We were very lazy to do so. But at some point we started prioritizing our own sleep, and then we realized in doing so that we need to prioritize her sleep. And it just worked very well. And also, we do want her to be an independent sleeper. It is a skill that is vital to them, and it does so much for them. And when we started prioritizing this, her sleep did get much better, and now she sleeps way better than she used to. And she actually really grew. It was so weird. So just the week of her birthday, she started putting herself to sleep, and we had like a proper routine on lock. Like, we don't do TV, we don't do screen time during the week. Well, we do, actually. Let me not lie to you. We do 30 minutes because we couldn't go completely cold turkey. She was having tantrums even with that. So we went to 30 minutes, which was a game changer for us. And then we also made her play and made her run around around and make sure she really finishes and has a good nutritious meal in front of her. And then we have our baths at the same time every day, and we don't skip that bath. And now she's falling in love with that bath, because before she used to fight it. And then we put her in a room and we tell her, okay, now you put yourself to sleep, and we leave the room. We don't even hang around anymore. And she started putting herself to sleep. My child grew so tall in a week. She did. So it really, really was a great benefit for her, right? And for us also, it just made us happier. Honestly, it just made us happier. When I look back at the time when she was very sick and she was sleeping with us and we just weren't getting much sleep, we felt so unhappy. So discipline really played a big part in that. And now that I've seen the benefit of that, I've realized that there also needs to be a lot of discipline in how I discipline her. So I have this bad habit of, bribing my child. And Tumelo has picked up on it, my partner. And he keeps telling me that when you do that, you create a precedent that someone needs to behave right only when they are rewarded with some sort of bribery. And also, we're trying to make her get out of her sweet habit. Because she has a sweet addiction, right? So yeah, I keep going back to it. I won't lie to you. And it is the easy way out. It is definitely the easy way out of saying, oh, I'm going to get you cake if you do this. Oh, I'm going to do this for you if you do this. And she would do it. And unfortunately, Nia does not forget. So, and I just don't want to be a disingenuous person to her. I don't want to be a liar to her, because then what am I teaching her? So then I do give her the sweet, which doesn't help with her teeth, right? I hope her dentist is not listening to this. But yes, so Dumela really made a very solid point that we need to teach her discipline. We need to discipline her in such a way that she understands that she needs to sometimes do things that she doesn't like to do or she doesn't want to do, but it's for the greater good for the community and the people around her, and also will benefit at some point. We mustn't teach her that, she needs to always benefit from it in some way. Sometimes other people deserve to benefit from her actions, or whatever it is. But yeah, it is a two-way street. We both have identified things in each other that require a lot of discipline from us. And even things like with even her nutrition, and I know I speak for a lot of moms, sometimes you just want to see them finish a meal. Like for you, it's more detrimental to see them not eat anything because you're just trying to push, those heavily nutritious meal and they're just not having it. But obviously the more you put it in front of them, the better it does get. And they do get used to those vegetables, but it is painful. I won't lie, it is painful. And I wish that I never stopped. I did have that zeal when I was more at home and when she was much younger. But for some odd reason, now my child tells me what to do, how to move, where to go. And I'm just kind of scared of her. I won't lie. But yeah, we are actually at the end of the conversation. But I wanted to say that if you resonated with anything that I've said today, if you felt like, this is something that's also been missing in your life, I am very happy for us to even take it offline and have a conversation. I actually have fan mail now. If you actually look at the description, it says send me a message. That's fan mail. It gets to me. I can read it and we can talk in a way, I guess. And yeah, I just want to say that it's a journey for all of us. And this podcast is me actually, putting it out there and holding myself accountable. I'm not saying that I've started doing anything, but I do want to start, and hopefully you'll start with me as well, and you'll start holding yourself accountable and allow, your discipline to be that bridge between your goals and your accomplishments. I'm also very thankful to you guys for being here every week and supporting me the way that you do. Whichever way that you show me that you really support me and you love being here, I really, 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 really appreciate that. Anyway, and I can't wait to meet you in my corner next week. And next week will actually be our last episode for the season, which I am actually excited to wrap up. But I'm also sad because what will I be doing? But what I will be doing is putting in the discipline to make this podcast much better for you. The funniest and the coolest thing is that I have big people reaching out that want to be on the podcast. It's so crazy. So we need to make that happen, right? You deserve that. And yeah, I can't wait to meet you again next week, Wednesday. Okay, bye to me.